Hello and welcome to RS Aggarwal's IAS. In this video of the Daily News Express, let us discuss the important topics appearing in the Hindu newspaper dated 28th December 2020. Let us start. This is the list of topics that we'll be discussing today. First, we'll talk about how India can make 2021 better. Then we'll talk about an effective vaccination policy that should come into picture. We'll talk about the inner line permit. We'll discuss some aspect with regards to Indo-Nepal relations. Then we'll end the discussion by learning some map points. Going further, let's start the first discussion. Here we are talking about how India can make 2021 better. This regards to GS paper 2 and GS paper 3. It becomes important. Now, 2020 was a very problematic year, not just for India, but for the world because of the various problems that we witnessed. There are some problems that have been pointed out by the author that we are talking about when it comes to 2020. First, the COVID-19 pandemic, of course. Now, this pandemic caused over a lakh deaths in the country, over a lakh, more than 1.5 lakh deaths in the country. It has affected more than a crore people with regards to employment, with regards to job, with regards to housing, or whatever it is, it affected them. Apart from COVID-19 pandemic, we saw one of the worst crises or one of the worst clashes with China in the Ladakh region. We saw the Ladakh Galwan Valley clashes where several soldiers lost their lives. We have been seeing the Naxalite violence. We have been seeing the militant violence when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir region and the Naxalite belt. It's been continuously there. We have also seen what you call as political polarization in the year 2020. It's been on the rise due to various things that's come into picture. Not important from UPSC point of view, the examples, but then political polarization is a thing. Then after that, we saw how elections were very prominent and how now West Bengal elections have become a battleground, and the relations between the ruling dispensation in West Bengal have not been very good. So that is another problem that we are seeing. We are also seeing how finally economy took the hit, and we saw that we have gone into a recession. The economy has plummeted. We've gone into a recession, a technical recession, you can say, and we are slowly trying to rise up. Apart from that, we have ranked very low on the Human Development Index. We have ranked low on several such indices like the Global Economic Freedom Index, so on and so forth. So if you talk about this 2020 and the coming 2021, what can we do better? How can we make 2021 better? What things can we do in this regard have been discussed in this article. Let's talk about that. So the main important fundamental question in repairing 2021 is where to begin. Where to begin is a question because there are so many things that are somewhat interconnected, somewhat have an important role. So we have to answer the question, where do we begin? Now, major changes have to be made in this thing, and the major changes have been very much expected from the current ruling dispensation or the BJP party, and people are expecting a lot, and the party has done well for itself, and the current ruling dispensation has done well for itself. It has landed on the promises, so people are thinking that structural shifts will be witnessed in 2021. And most important thing is that the seriousness of the challenges that 2020 has posed to us have to be understood, and just electoral victories are not enough is what the author is saying. So let us see the process of repairing. From where can we start and how can we go ahead? First, we can take into consideration the foreign policy aspect. Okay, now we're just randomly talking about various things, not in an order. I'm just telling you how author has told us. First, we can talk about the foreign policy aspect, where a new paradigm has to be adopted. So the same old conventional talking status quo will not come into picture, will not be important. What we need is a better way of solving this problem, a better way of countering China, and better way of strengthening India. Because in the Asian subcontinent, we are seen as a nation that can only nation that can counter China for that matter. So we have to stand firm on this ground. Second, we'll talk about the economy, which happens to be the most important thing. The policy measures and the way economists have suggested is that India should look inwards, not outwards. But the author is saying inward looking strategy will not be a solution. We should not look inwards, rather, we should look outwards, and we have to push our export capacity. We have to push our export capacity and make use of the diverse opportunities that are present in front of us. And we should develop ourselves and make ourselves worth a lot more. Apart from this, third thing the author is saying when it comes to repairing 2020 is job creation. Now we have seen that before the COVID-19 pandemic struck, unemployment was at the highest levels, and now we are seeing unemployment has been pushed more, where over 2 crore people have lost their jobs. So what we have to do is we have to perform this idea called as job creation for the youth of the country. We have to set right the disruptions in the labor market that have been caused due to COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not talking about labor codes. I'm talking about how the pandemic has affected the labor market. We need to set that right. All in all, we should stimulate demand in the economy. So if these three things are set right in the right way, everything will fall into picture. And these are the most important things. Of course, we have to take care of the health sector, we have to take care of the vaccination policy. All that is mentioned, but then these three things are most important. The author is saying that we have to restore confidence. The government has to restore confidence in constitutional proprieties, in constitutional practices, and in constitutional principles. So three things are there. The government has to set right the confidence back in constitutional proprieties, constitutional practices, and constitutional principles. People are suffering from what you call as crisis of confidence. So the government has to correct this. They have set this right. The crisis of confidence has to be set right. A balance has to be struck, and the cooperation between center and states is needed for a democratic future of India, is what this article is telling us. So notes from a year of unease following a year of debilitating problems, restoring India's image in 2021 will not be easy, but then we have high hopes from the current ruling dispensation that they will do things right, and hopefully it will be done right. Going further, we are talking about the second article, which caters to the idea of vaccination policy with regards to GS paper 2. Now here, vaccination policy has to come out. We are talking about various things, but let's understand some basics. That India plans to vaccinate 300 million people in 6 to 7 months. India plans to vaccinate 300 million people in 6 to 7 months, and its priority has been set right, starting from the healthcare workers, then frontline workers, and the population which is above the age of 50 years. Now, this population consists of 20% of the 100% population. Please note, this is 20% of the 100% population, and this will be vaccinated only by August 2021. So this is the basic idea that is coming in front of us. Now, if we talk about the vaccine that we are trying to procure, this vaccine requires two doses, not just one dose. It requires two doses. That means for this much population, we will be requiring 600 million doses of the population, which the government is easily ready to procure. Not any kind of hindrance has been shown by the government, which is a very positive sign. Now we have to understand that the government has struck a deal with Serum Institute of India for 500 million doses. Now this Serum Institute of India at Pune is the world's largest producer of vaccines. Okay, so this is the basic idea. Now the logic behind prioritizing these people is that these people are very vulnerable, and the healthcare workers are the most, you can say, exposed to them, those who are affected with the virus, and these become the carriers of the virus, so that they spread it to other people. In order to stop that, these healthcare workers and frontline workers have been vaccinated or have been put in the priority. Now I'll talk to you about this later. First, we have to understand that an objective of any vaccination drive should be to provide protection to those people who are vaccinated. Firstly, to provide protection. Second is to slow down the transmission of the vaccination. So two basic things that you have to understand as a common man also, that a vaccination drive has two things. One is the providing protection to those vaccinated. Second is to slow down the transmission of this vaccine. Now the author is saying that the population of above 50 years is prioritized. But is this population as exposing or as socially mobilized as those who are younger? Because these people hardly have any social interactions. These people hardly go out. These people hardly have anything or else outside life, but these are the younger people who have a bigger outside life and bigger social interaction. So who should we prioritize is a debate that the author is putting forth to the audience who's reading it. He is also putting forth the fact that yes, 50-year-olds, people who are above than 50 years will have a, what you say, as you can say, vulnerability of catching the virus sooner, and as a result we are prioritizing these people? So that's a debate left to you guys to understand and to come up with a conclusion. Going further, what we are learning is the role of private hospitals, right? So if you talk about the role of private hospitals, the government is saying that the government itself is doing the procurement, the government itself is doing the distribution, the government itself is bearing the cost of vaccination. So where is the private hospital coming into picture? Is private hospital coming into picture is a good question to ask. Now it's also a very good thing to understand that the government is undertaking all this. Whether it is procurement, the predominantly from the domestic sources, then they are using the public sources for distribution like the primary healthcare centers, government schools, government hospitals, and the cost of vaccination also. Let's say they are procuring 500 million sets from Serum Institute of India. The government itself is paying for it. So now, when does the private hospital comes into picture? Now, what will happen in this regard is, let's say Serum Institute of India is producing the vaccine. There is a multinational company called XYZ Pharmaceuticals. They will also procure it. They will also sell it. Now, is it a good thing for government to give them permission to do so? Yes, it can be a good thing, but there is a flip side that the government will be criticized for supporting these multinational companies or corporates, you can say. But then, if this is done, what should be taken into consideration is the fact that this will help us push our capabilities. That is, the multinational companies, they will also do exporting of the vaccine, which the government is not prioritizing right now. They will do it. And the only thing that the government should take into consideration or should worry about when this MNCs will come and ask for vaccine approval or for them to provide the vaccine is the fact that this procurement of MNCs should not affect the government procurement, because of course MNCs will charge XYZ amount of money, government is giving it for free of cost. Now, the government cannot quote a reason saying our procurement was disturbed because MNCs came and they procured it. That should not be the thing. It should be available. Availability should not be benefited or should not be uh, troubled by MNCs or the private corporations, because the government will be catering to the poor and vulnerable sections who will not be able to afford the kind of pricing that these MNCs will give. But at one point in time, if the government procurement, if the government distribution is so cumbersome, it becomes so big that everybody is going there for vaccination, some people who are well off and some people who are privileged will definitely fall back on the multinational companies. So it should be balanced, it should be benefited. One should not affect the procurement or distribution of the other, is what the author is saying. And the government's agenda should be clear, the government's idea should be clear, that it is catering to the population which is unable to afford it, and this MNC should not be benefited in this any regard, and profiteering should be curbed, and vaccine distribution policy should be properly streamlined, is what this author is saying. Now if you see here that it is given, the government must examine the principle underlying triad scheme and whether private players should be allowed in this space. So that's becoming an important question. So we have to see how government will be able to manage the procurement, the distribution, the storage, the priority things and all the other things. So hopefully we will have a good result because of the vaccine that we are coming up with, and it will be able to immunize people from these strains as well. Going further, let's discuss the next article of the day. Here we are talking about the inner line permit. Now this becomes important from UPSC point of view. Not most times has it been asked, so it has a very potential power to be asked in your prelims as well as your mains examination. This caters to GS paper 2 as well as your prelims examination. Now, what is the inner line permit? Simply saying, inner line permit is a document that you need to avail to visit some of the northeast states. Okay, so who are these people who need this document? These are the non-natives. The natives of course don't need it. The non-natives need inner line permit to visit these northeast states or to stay in the northeast states for some point in time. Now the point coming up next is, which are these four northeast states that need inner line permit? First is Arunachal Pradesh, second is Mizoram, third is Manipur, and fourth is Nagaland. Okay, let me repeat: Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Manipur, and Nagaland. Both the duration of the stay and the areas to be allowed to be accessed for any non-native are determined by the inner line permit. Now, who issues this inner line permit? It is issued by the state government. It is issued by the state government. So this is the whole idea of the inner line permit. So if you are a traveler, or let's say you are planning a trip, and if you want to visit Arunachal Pradesh, you have to seek an inner line permit, get it, and only then visit the place. Now, how did this begin? This inner line permit is an extension of what you call of the British time era, and here where you call as Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act they passed. The British passed the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act, and they framed regulations restricting entry into certain areas. Why was this done? Why did the British do this? This was done to protect the British interest in certain areas from preventing the, you can say, British subjects. That time Indian citizens were called as British subjects, ironically, and they wanted these British subjects, that is Indians, to stop trading in that region. As a result, they introduced this. Later, after independence from 1950 onwards, this British subject term was gotten rid of, and it was made citizens of India, and non-natives, all the non-natives of that particular place were supposed to have an inner line permit. This was done to not stop trade, rather it was done to protect the indigenous tribal communities from exploitation. So very simple as that. This is the thing about inner line permit. So predominantly inner line permit is needed to preserve the indigenous culture of the tribal people. It is also required to stop the illegal migrants, illegal activities. It's a very important thing. Previously, a lot of places had the idea of the inner line permit, but now only 4 states are there. Very important for you to remember: Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Manipur, and Nagaland. So now Prime Minister had the idea of getting rid of it for, you can say, the region of Manipur, but now it is going to stay. So it's a developing story, but then this is the basics that you need to be aware of from UPSC point of view. Going further, let's discuss the next article. This is Indo-Nepal relations. This caters to GS paper 2, and this is with regards to how India and Nepal have been going further. Now this article or this news is important because in Nepal there are some topsy-turvy things happening with regards to administration and constitution, and India is not really bothered. India is not talking about anything here. What Nepal needs is India's support, and India has its own reason why India is not doing it, because it looks a little undemocratic and unconstitutional what has happened. But China shows its hand in current crisis. So you know China, it tries to woo Indian neighbors, where at the time India is talking about ethics, India is talking about its principles. China says, leave all that. We are your friend, both in principle and not in principle. So this is one of the aspects that you need to cater from Indo-Nepal relations, also from the international relations point of view. Now let us discuss some basic with regards to Indo-Nepal area. Now Indo-Nepal relations have been very strong until a few years. They were very good friends. They share cultural cooperation, they share economic cooperation, trade cooperation, defense cooperation. And Nepal is a bordering nation and borders states of Sikkim, West Bengal, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand. Okay, it borders so many states. Now Indo Nepal relations, the most basic thing is the India Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship that we signed in the year 1950. So since this became the bedrock of our relations, and of course we have been cooperating in a very nice way. We have been providing them development assistance. We have been a part of South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation and such other bilateral organizations. We have been a part of the human resource development, the capacity building, and so on. If you talk about trade, India is Nepal's largest trade partner. India is Nepal's largest trade partner. It is a source of FDI for Nepal. A lot of Nepalis work in India, a lot of Indians work in Nepal, so it's a cross-cultural thing for them, and they have been receiving a lot of grants for development projects, etc. If you talk about military assistance, India has played a major role in developing the Nepal army. It has helped in modernization of equipment and training, and various training programs have been done for the Nepalese army. The Chief of Army Staff, the COAS of the Indian Army, has given is given the honorary rank of a general in the Nepal army, and it's reciprocal for the chief of Nepal army. So it's a very good relation that we have had. We conduct the Surya Kiran military exercise, and you can say we have the border that has been guarded, and we have 1 lakh 23,000 ex-servicemen residing in Nepal. We have payment of pension for them. These many things are there which are a very good aspect of Indo-Nepal relations. But what is wrong? What is wrong is how since 2015 relations got a little strained between them, between both of us. Now why is that? Is because India imposed like a blockade. It started with India imposing a blockade at its border, and this affected Nepal's relations with India. Now, this issue was raised by Nepal in UN, as as they called it as a, you can say, trade blockade. They called it a trade blockade, and 2016 China banked on this opportunity and took Nepal by its side. After that, relations kept on getting strained and strained, and then Prime Minister did visit Nepal, but then even after that several challenges came into picture that affected our relations with Nepal. If you talk further, we can understand the fact that China's role is very predominant, and recently in the year 2020 we saw how Nepal released its map with the region of Kalapani and with the region of Uttarakhand coming under its ambit. So this was big problem between the relations of India and Nepal, and other issues also came up, like how we had the problem of illegal migrants, we had the problem of illegal activities taking place, and how Nepal signed the One Belt One Road initiative with China. All these things were becoming a troublesome thing for India. So this was the you can say relation between India and Nepal. Now we have understood the fact that Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has commented on Lord Rama. He's spoken about India, and even then, because of this whole map issue also, where Kala Pani and Lipu Lake, Limpiadhura, all these were under this Nepali ambit, as how the Nepali administration or the Nepali government put forth. India has tried its best to sort out this issue and take care of this issue in this regard, but then the relations are keeping on straining. You can see it's given here on Nepal. India prefers to watch from sidelines. China shows its hand in current crisis. So we are seeing that this situation is moving a little further. So what is the way forward between India and Nepal? Firstly, we have to set things right with regards to neighborhood. Second, we have to counter China's influence by taking Nepal's side. Then we have to move ahead from what you call as aid to become it, to call it support, the right kind of support. We should do that. And then we can talk about proper connectivity through rail, through buses, through cross-border exchange, etc. And we have to strengthen our relations by bigger diplomatic visits. So this is the way forward that we are seeing today, and we will see how this will develop. Recently we saw the Nepali parliament dissolve, so we'll see how this will develop and what will happen in the future. Going further, these are some map points that we need to be aware of from UPSC point of view, because if you see the world page of the Hindu newspaper, the places and the countries become important, because UPSC can ask you anything anytime about these maps. So all these places we have to be aware of. Okay, so the first country we are learning about is Sudan. Sudan is an important African country. It's a Muslim nation. It is opening to the Red Sea. If you see, this is the location of it in Africa. It is opening to the Red Sea. It is supported by, or it is bordered by countries like Egypt, Libya, Chad, Central African Republic, South Sudan, which happens to be recently created, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. So Sudan is an important nation. A lot of problems are happening there with regards to civil war, civil liberties, trade-off, terror, etc. So please note the fact that it opens to the Red Sea and is surrounded by 1 Egypt, 2 Libya, 3 Chad, 4 Central African Republic, 5 South Sudan, 6 Ethiopia, and 7 Eritrea. 7 nations. So what is the capital of Sudan? Write to me in the comment section. It's right here. If you find out, you will come to. Then we have to talk about Doha. Where is Doha? Doha is the capital of Qatar. Qatar or Qatar, however you would like to call it. It's the capital of Qatar. Doha is here. So you have to know about Qatar. Qatar is bordered by only one nation, that is Saudi Arabia. See this map? It is located here. It is only bordered by Saudi Arabia. But the beautiful part is most of it opens to the Persian Gulf. So this is the Persian Gulf and this is the Gulf of Oman. So here comes the Strait of Hormuz. So you must have heard about it, Strait of Hormuz between Persian Gulf and Persia and the Gulf of Oman, and Qatar as a country opens to the Persian Gulf. It's located very close to Bahrain. Bahrain is somewhat somewhere here with regards to its location, and this is why this region is called as the Gulf of Bahrain. Here you have the Gulf of Salwa. So these gulfs become important, and this is the location of the maps. So that's it from today's Daily News Express, guys. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you have any doubts, if you have any discrepancies, write to us in the comment section. We shall talk there. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, press the like button and share it with your friends if you like our video. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay safe, take care, bye bye.